In this video, what I'm going to do is introduce you to GameMaker, and we're going to catch the Android. So in GameMaker, what you see is it looks like this. There's a bunch of folders, and these are going to be very important, and a toolbar at the top. To get started with making our game, the first thing we do is we need to make pictures for the objects that we have in our game. And those pictures are called sprites. So if I want to make a new sprite, what I do is I go to the folder and I use the right mouse button and I select Create Sprite. So the sprite I'm going to do, I'm going to look in my Drive H in a folder I called Infotech, and I'm going to put a picture I drew last class called Small Android. And there's my picture. Now for this picture, I don't need to put any precision collision checking. It's just going to bounce around the screen. I need to give it a name. Names are very important. So I will give it the first three letters SPR anytime I make a sprite. So all my sprites I called SPR, which is going to stand for sprite. And so when I go to use it, I know that it's a sprite. So I'm going to call this SPR and then Android. And I can say that it's going to be transparent, and that's okay, because what transparent does is it takes, let me zoom in on this picture, it takes whatever is located in this pixel right here. So right now, in the bottom left corner, I've got the color black. So if I say transparent, anything that's black is going to be transparent. And you're probably thinking, there's nothing black in there, so nothing is going to be transparent except for that one pixel in the bottom left. You'd be absolutely right. So what I actually want is I want white to be transparent. So what I will do is I'll change the color to white. White, there, wrong white. And I can just dump paint, and you'll see anything that's white, which is the background around the head, around the arms, and so forth. It's all white, and that will all be transparent and see-through. Okay, I'm going to make another picture. I'm going to make a picture of a wall. So the obvious name would be called SPR wall. A wall would not be transparent because I want all the pixels to be visible. And you're probably thinking, well, what sprite? I don't have a wall that I drew. And that's true. I didn't draw a wall yet. So what I'm going to do for now, I'm just going to click Edit Sprite. And if I double click on image 0, it brings me to a image editor program inside of GameMaker. It's a very simple one, but good enough. And I'm going to make the walls, let's say gray. I think gray is kind of a good color for walls. So I select the color gray from the palette, and I use the paint bucket. I dump paint on it, and now I have a gray block there. And I say don't have precision collision checking and don't preload the texture. Everything looks okay. Great. So sprites are the pictures. The real thing in a game is the objects. And an object is different from a picture. The object is like the player in a soccer game. So imagine a soccer game for a second, and you can think of a player. And so if I was making a video game of a soccer game, I might draw what a player looked like. That would be the sprite. But the object would not only have the picture of the player in my soccer game, but it also would have the ability to have actions and events. The soccer player would have to be able to kick a ball. The soccer player would have to be able to run up the field or back from the field or to the left of the field or to the right. So that's what an object is, and that's how an object's different from a sprite. So I'm going to right click on object, and I'm going to create an object, and I'm going to make an object for my Android, and I'm going to call it OBJ Android. And you'll see why names are so important. If I called it Android and my sprite Android, it would be confusing, and the computer would not know what to do. The other thing I can't do is if I put spaces, the computer kind of gets confused a little bit with spaces. So that's why I always do 3 lowercase letters like OBJ for object, SPR for sprites, and then give it a name that I think is suitable for that thing. So in this case, it'll be Object Android. I'm going to tell it to be the Android sprite. I'm going to make another object, and I'm going to call this object wall. So same thing, obj wall, and I would use the gray wall. Now the wall I need to make solid. So a wall is just going to only have one thing. It's going to have a picture, and it's going to be solid. I guess that's two things. That's it. So a wall just sits there. The Android, though, is going to do many different things. For example, the Android is going to have a collision with a wall. So what I'm going to do, I went a little fast here, is I go under Events. There's a button here that says Add Event. And so what I want for an event in Android is I'm going to add an event that Android is going to collide with a wall. So if Android hits a wall, what I want Android to do is to bounce off the wall. And there's some options in here, but I'm just going to say okay. I'm going to leave it just like it is. Another event that's going to happen with Android is Android is going to be created. In other words, the Android is going to, when the game starts, Android's going to start. And so what I want Android to do, well, I want Android to start moving around the screen. So I tell it to move up, down, left, and right, or diagonal at a speed of 4. So when the game is created, Android's going to start to go. Okay, I'm going to add another event here, but I want to show you what we've done so far. So to show you, I need to do at least one more basic thing in any game, and that is have a room. So I need to right-click on room, and I'm going to create a room. Oops, made two. Must have done that. I don't know how I did that. So I've got a room here. And in my room, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a grid to be 32 by 32. And the reason is because the wall I drew is 32 by 32 pixels. So I want the room to make it so when I go here to objects and I select object wall, that it's going to fit nicely in the room, and I can put these walls in a nice, easy way. Now you'll see there's some options down here. So if I want to do multiple, I can press Shift with the left mouse and watch what I can do. I can make a lot of walls quickly, which is kind of a nice thing to do. And so you'll see I can do a lot of walls. I can also, if I made a mistake, it says here I can press right mouse to delete. And so I can right mouse and delete if I didn't want a wall there. Okay, so I've got walls all around my room here. And I'm going to put an Android in it. And you'll see my object Android, so that's okay. So I'll say okay. My Android, when it's created, is going to start moving. And when it hits a wall, it's going to bounce. Let's press play and just see what it looks like. And it always takes a second to save and run, but not too long. So there it is, and it's just going to start bouncing. So it starts moving, hits a wall, bounces. So that's fine. The game is not very exciting because we're actually not interacting with it. So what I want to do last to make it a little bit more of a game is I want to have some interaction. So to add some interaction, I'm going to add an event called mouse left button. And when I click with the left button, what I want to do is I want to make the Android move in a different random direction. So it's going to select one of these directions. And this time I'm going to put a speed of 1, but I'm going to put a check mark on relative. And let me just tell you what relative is. What relative is it means whatever I had before, if I have +1 here, the speed is going to be 1 more. If I put -1, it would be 1 less or a little bit slower. So, for example, the speed started at 4. If this event happens, it's going to be 1 more relative, so it'd be 5. If this event happens again, I click on the left button, it's going to start moving again. Instead of 5, it'll be 6. And if I left button it again, it'll be 7, and then 8, and then 9, and then 10. It'll get faster and faster. The next thing I'm going to do is I want some points. And you'll probably say, well, I don't see any actions for points. Well, to find actions for points, I can go to the Score tab, and I can put in here Score and say I want 10 points, and that will be relative to what I have. So I'll get more points. And now this is a little bit of a game. In the next lesson, I'm going to make it a better game. But this, at least if you press play, you'll see that we have a bit of a game. We have 3 events in Android. When it's created, it starts moving. If it hits a wall, it bounces. And if I have the left button, it is going to get points. And it's going to change direction. And you can see how the game goes. And it's getting a little better.